Hi, welcome to today's video, which is going to be adding of whole numbers. We just finished our chapter, the first chapter of our book, which was on place value and rounding, and we did it without the students getting into their textbooks, not even one time. And I'm very excited to give the second chapter the same plan. We're going to try to do the whole chapter with hands-on math, and I'm confident that we can do it. You know, when I start a math chapter, I always look at the whole chapter and then try to figure out what pieces, what skills my students need to help them to be more successful in the chapter. When we do read aloud, when we do guided reading books, we don't just open the book and start reading. We always build background, we scaffold. And so I use that same philosophy with math. I need to see, what do my students need to be strong in so that they can move through this chapter more easily. And when I look at the addition and subtraction of whole numbers, I see right away something that they need. So I wanted to start with some little addition tricks. I know you teach your students these too. The nines. You know, you always look at the other addend that is not 9 and one less than that. So 1 less than 4 is 3, so that makes that 13. So we practice that over and over again. And, you know, they've had this before, but we all know that our students learn at different paces. So not everybody got this concept in 3rd grade, so we have to reteach. And it was very fun to hear some of them say things like, oh, I get that now. And so I just did that modeling on my projector and them on their whiteboards. We didn't need any worksheets for that at all. There's even a little game in this book for that concept in the All Hands on Deck book. This is from the Boxcar and One-Eyed Jack people. But you don't even need a game. Just throw out that drill for them. But I didn't want to spend an entire period doing this drill. So I pulled out my tiles, my Marcy Cook tiles, and I've done videos on them before, and I've done a whole video on what I'm going to show you right now, and Wonderful Stanley will link that for you. But if you buy the tiles, they cost $15, and they come on these beautiful, hard, sturdy cardstock. You don't have to laminate them, and your students will need tiles. 2 sets of tiles, 2 students for one of these sheets. And I, in addition to my tiles, I put money in here, fake money and real money, so that they can use it when they're working with their tiles. You know, there will always be coin problems, and you know, you think your students all know what a quarter is worth, what a 50-cent piece is worth. I had some students last week who had never seen a 50-cent piece. So, you know, don't think they automatically know all these skills. I have clocks in the room so that they're ready. I actually have to teach my students how to tell time. I'm realizing I have the majority of my students who don't know how to tell time on an analog clock. So that's going to be something I'm working on this week. But so we spent a portion of our time working on the drill, and then we spent the rest of the time working on the tiles. And you'll see that each set comes with a little tracking card, so that when they do card number 1, they just color it in, card number 2. And if they, you know, redo a card, that's fine too, if they particularly enjoyed it or found it challenging. And the reason I love these so much is because they can work on their own pace, and the skills are very good. And you don't have to, you know, hold them back, because this is the do double set. Did I tell you they're $15 if you buy it this way, and just $10 if you digitally buy it. But there are 2 more sets after this. There's double tiles and then double tiles 2, and they get more challenging as the sets go. There are 20 cards in each set. But for this week, I just used, you know, last year when we were in Zoom school, I copied off, it's not upside down, good. I copied off a whole set of these for my whole class, so that now I have a whole class set of every single set. And so I just passed those out to my students, and that's what they're going to be working on for the next couple weeks. And, you will have students start writing in the squares, and you just have to teach them. This is a pencil-less activity. We're just going to be using our number tiles. So that was a whole day. And then the second day, I wanted to help them learn how to add more than one addend. We need to teach this skill. We don't want them to just, start at the bottom or the top and just go. 6 plus 7 is 13 plus 4. We don't want that. We want students to take numbers apart, dissect them, move them around. And so we teach, looking for sums of 10 or looking for doubles or doubles plus 1. And this becomes, 10 plus 10, which is an entirely different way than just going this way. And there's a wonderful game to teach this skill of sums of 10. And I have to teach it to you. It comes to us from the Boxcar and One-Eyed Jacks people who wrote this book, All Hands on Deck, and this is a book that goes all the way through all of the grades up to 8th grade. But here is how it goes. You'll need cards, number cards, and I use the cards that the Boxcar people sell. They're a nice size, and I like them because there are no face cards. There are no jacks or kings or queens. They all have the actual number on them. And I know, it just seems a little classier to me. But if you're not comfortable using playing cards, you can use any number cards. Even Uno cards would work. Or you don't have to use these cards. You can just buy cheap playing cards. And my husband used to go to the casinos when he was teaching high school and did you know they can't use their decks more than one day? So he would get whole decks for free from the casinos. Of course, he had to check out the casinos to go do that. But that's a little Stanley tip there. But this is called Sums of 10, and the students play in groups of 2 or 3. And you have them make an array, depending on how much time you have. I usually have them make an array like a 5 by 5 or a 4 by 4. I just have a 3 by 3 here because I have limited space. And I wish one of you were here to play this with me, but I'm just going to have to pretend I'm 2 people. But it's the memory game that we grew up, and I still love that game. Except we're not going to be turning over 2 cards. The Boxcars and One-Eyed Jack people had the idea to turn over 3 cards. So we're looking for sums of 10. So let's see. I'm going to turn over 3 cards here. Much easier on a flat surface, wouldn't it be? All right, I'm looking and I don't have any sums of 10. But I'm going to try to remember where these numbers are so that when it's my turn again, I might get a little luckier. But my opponent is also looking and remembering. Okay, now it's your turn, so I'm going to play for you. Oh, here's a 6. And I'm just turning these over. Oh! I got a 10, so I'm going to get to take that one straight away. Oh, and you only use the cards 1 through 10. Oh, so I didn't get anything here. I just got that 10. So, well, that's yours actually because it was your turn. So you got a 10, and that's in your keep pile. And now I'm going to replace. You always replace. And so in upper grade, I just use cards 1 through 10. If I were teaching primary, I would use even the zeros to 10. And you can use the Boxcars. That's another thing I like about these. They don't have a joker. It's called a Boxcar, and this is the choose your own value. So that's how you play back and forth, and the winner of the game is the person who has the most cards. And if I turn over a Boxcar, and like if I turned over a 7, then I would make this a 3 so that I would have a sum of 10. And yes, you can get lucky. Like if you turn over a 10 and a 6 and a 4, you would get all 3 of those cards. But this is one of those games that they don't care who the winner is. It's one of those, we're all winners. They just want to play the game. But this is a game we'll continue playing through the year to keep those sums of 10, because sums of 10 show up even when we multiply, when we're adding. And so after we did that, then we went right back to our tiles. And they never grow tired of these tile activities. The Marcy Cook tiles. They just adore them, and I adore them because you will see if you look at the tile sets, all the gaps that are filled in, all the challenging kinds of questions that Marcy Cook comes up with. But once we spent some time on those little tricks, then I felt that they were ready for adding whole numbers. And I want to show you the game that we played for that. This game also comes from this book, All Hands on Deck, and it's called To Sum It Up. And what you will need is, she gives you this game sheet called To Sum It Up. And because my book is so small, I had to enlarge it to about 125%, and then it's the perfect size. But each student will need one of these. But to teach the game, let me show you how we began. I played myself against the class, which was so much fun, and they were so excited. So each student needs their whiteboard. Do your whiteboards last a whole year? Mine don't. My whiteboards last about half a year, and then I have to replace them because we use them so constantly. But you're going to start with a 3x3 grid. And so all the students do the same. And then we start to play the game. And you will see that this is also a review of place value beautifully. So if I were playing, in a pair, we would take turns turning over a card. But since I'm playing against everybody, I just have my own stack, and I'm going to turn over a card one at a time. So here we go. Here's a 1. That's what I turned over. So now everybody needs to place a 1 somewhere on the grid. And so, they're going to right away, because they're proficient at place value already. Oh, there goes my book. Put it over in the 1's place. And here is an 8. So I'm going to put that somewhere in the hundreds place. And here's a 5. Here's a 5. So I'm going to put that in the middle, and I don't have to go in order. It can go anywhere at all. Here's a 4. I'll put that here. And so it goes. And you keep going, and you will find your students, because they're so good at place value, they'll put the larger numbers here, and the middle numbers here, and the lower numbers here. And then it's time to add up all the addends. And, again, you're looking for the tricks, the doubles, the sums of 10. You don't want them to just, rotely start adding. You want them to manipulate the numbers to make it a better problem. And so then I asked, I did my sum, and I read it out loud, and then I said, who thinks they have a larger sum than me? Because the way you win a round is who has the larger sum. And 2 of my most competent and competent math students, Jordan and Fiona, were eager to tell me their answer, and this was just such an exciting thing. Jordan raised her hand, and I said, tell us your number, and she said, 24,126. And I said, Jordan, I think maybe you made a mistake. Would you be willing to bring your board up here so that we can show it on the projector and see if you made a mistake, so that we can analyze it and learn from it? And she said, sure. So she came up, and her mistake was golden. Do you see it? I had not taken the time to teach the students how to add. I just assumed they would remember, and it has been months since they've added. And so look, she did 2, 4, 6, no problem here. And then she told me she did 5 plus 7, which is 12, and that's where she put her 12. And I said, Jordan, interestingly, this is against the law. You can't do that. You have to put the 2 here and then rename. When I was growing up, we called it carrying, the 1 over here, and that will completely change your answer. She was like, oh yeah. And we celebrated this mistake together as a class and learned, and she was not the only one who had done that. Many of the others had done that as well. I mean, how can we expect them to remember? It hadn't been compressed yet. Once that concept is compressed, they'll never forget it. Maybe playing this game will help some more compress that concept. Then Fiona wanted to share her board. And, you know, Fiona was one in the beginning of the year who asked me if you saw that video. She said, challenge me, Mrs. Matsuda, please challenge me. And look at her mistake. She added up, and she did sums of 10 right here. But look what she did here. She didn't get this row correct. And so we got to analyze what she had done incorrectly. And I could not have been more pleased that Fiona and Jordan were the first two to want to share, and they both made golden mistakes. Because what a gift to the rest of the class. Oh, they made mistakes. They're not embarrassed by their mistakes. We're using their mistakes to learn, and it was very exciting. This is what is happening in my class now. I noticed this last week. They're raising their hand and telling me, Mrs. Matsuda, I made a mistake. Look right here, I made a mistake. And they're able to find their mistake. It's really on par when our readers self-correct. You know, we don't want our readers to just read through miscues and errors. We don't want our mathematicians to just plow through mistakes and not care. We want them to be able to find their mistakes. What an incredible skill that is for them when they go out into the workforce as adults. Well, we played this Mrs. Matsuda against the students for a bit, and then I knew they were ready. They were ready to play it on their own. And so I passed out the grids, and so each round will utilize one grid. I will be using this grid for myself, and my opponent will be using this grid on their own paper. So everyone has their own paper. And they'll write their sums right down here. And I asked them because, well, this is what I did. I said, you know, I know you're ready. You're ready, aren't you? They were. I said, but I bet there are some of you who don't feel quite ready to do this on your own yet with your elbow partner. And I'm going to ask you to be very brave and identify yourselves. And would you believe 4 students boldly raised their hands? And I said, excellent. I'm so happy you raised your hands. All right, now I need you 4 to come up to the whiteboard, and we're going to play together, continue to play together, and the rest of you, you're good to go. And now that did mean that 4 elbow partners lost their partners, so they had to readjust, and they did. And because I wasn't going to be able to walk about and spot check, what I did is I told them to take out their calculators, and once they got their sums, to check on their calculators. And we talked about, you know, how to cheat themselves in that regard. You know, would it be helpful to just add the numbers up with the calculator first? And they're, no, that's right, we're going to use the calculator to check. And they were off and running. And then I got my 4 students, and I brought them up to on the carpet on my whiteboard, and I said, we're going to play together. And so we got our whiteboards, and we made a new grid, good to go. But we all put our numbers in the same spots with this group of students because I wanted to practice teaching them where to go, how to add them together. So I gave each one a little stack of cards. So first, Jane gave a card. She showed us, and it was a 3. So I said, where should we put it? And then we all put it in the same place. Then it was Corey's turn to, a 9. Where should we put that? And they were all very excited to put the 9. And then Kaylee was next, and another 9. Put it right here. And who was the 4th Sophia. It was Sophia. And then a 6. We put the 6 here. And we all did the exact same numbers. And then we added them together. And I modeled that. And we were having so much fun. And I didn't have to worry about the rest of the class because they were engaged in the actual activity. And my little group was engaged in the activity. And, you know, it was just so much fun because if I had done a worksheet, you know, there would have been those students who finished it in 2 seconds, and, you know, I could have had another activity for them to do. But we were all engaged in the same activity, and it was beautiful. It was one of those beautiful teaching moments. And then I said, you're ready. After we did several of these, I said, you're ready now, aren't you? And they couldn't wait to turn to each other and one against one play. We're going to do this again tomorrow because we only used about 5 of these, the rest of the class. And then we'll do this, and then we'll go into our tiles. They ask every day, are we doing tiles today? Are we doing tiles? This is how I ended the period. I don't want my students thinking that all we do is play games in Mrs. Matsuda's class. You know what the parents ask when they first get into the car after school. What did you do today? And many of our students equate math with a math book. Oh, we didn't do anything. We just played a game. I need to teach my students the words to say so that I don't get thrown under a bus. People ask our students, how's school? How do you like school? Thanksgiving is coming up, and aunts and uncles are going to say, how's school? I don't want my students to say, oh, it's great. All we do is play games. We don't do any work. I teach them that the work of childhood is play, and that I find it very fulfilling when I find ways to combine work and play. Their work of play with lessons, with teaching. I think it's just a powerful combination. So I teach my students that they need to say, we are doing this skill. A really good little formative assessment would be for you to ask your students, take out your whiteboards and tell me, write on the whiteboard, what are we doing right now? I was talking to a student at another school recently, and I asked, what are you studying in math? And the student didn't know. I gave some suggestions. I said, are you doing place value? Are you doing addition? Are you doing multiplication? I don't know. We want our students to know what we're learning, what they're learning, what I'm teaching, what we're working on together. But we have to practice it. We have to teach them how to speak. I pulled out the math book, not for them to hold, but for me to show them on my projector. And I showed them the lesson that we would have been doing in the textbook. Let me show you. Do you see? 2 addends. I went through the entire chapter, and nowhere in the 4th grade chapter on adding and subtracting of whole numbers are they using 3 numbers to add. So I said, boys and girls, what we did in this game was more challenging than anything that was in our books. The shock. They were playing a game, but they had no idea that what we were doing was more challenging than the lesson that was in the book. But we need to intentionally teach our students, have them practice, so that when they are asked, what did you do today, they know. And that when we're playing games, we very much are doing math. I wonder how you're doing today. I guarantee it doesn't matter what day of the week you're watching this, what month of the year you're watching this. You're feeling inadequate. You're feeling overwhelmed. And that you're not enough. How do I know this? Because that's the way I feel every day. That's how I feel every night when I go to bed. Oh, I didn't do this. Oh, I still have to do this. I should have done this differently. So may I encourage you, dear teacher, may I tell you that whatever you're doing is enough, and whatever you didn't accomplish today, no one died, and tomorrow is a fresh day for us to start again, to work to the best of our abilities with our students, and giving ourselves the grace and forgiveness that we are very much human, and that our students can learn from our mistakes and our challenges, and it is actually a gift to give them when they can see us acknowledge our mistakes. So, until we're together again next week, and I can't wait till that comes, let me remind you that you are a math person, and you, as you are enough. Goodbye.